How does this thing work again? Oh, right. Okay. Once upon a time, there was a girl named Goldilocks who was on the run from a long string of breaking and entering jobs. With the po-po closing in and nowhere else to go, Goldilocks decided to try deep sea diving and go on the lam under the waves. So she cobbled together a bathysphere out of stolen televisions and vacuum cleaners and made her way to the bottom of the ocean. When she reached the bottom, she was very cold and very damp and very, very hungry, and she found herself outside a small house built into the coral reef. Taking a deep breath and clutching her lockpicks, she swam over to the door and soon found her way inside. The inside was small and cozy and incomprehensibly filled with oxygen. What a convenient narrative device, said Goldilocks, looking around for something to eat or steal. Her eyes rested upon a crude table upon which were 3 bowls, a large bowl, a very large bowl, and an even yet slightly larger bowl. The 3 bowls were filled with seaweed. Ooh, gomo wakame, cried Goldilocks. Using her lockpicks as chopsticks, Goldilocks took a bite out of the seaweed salad in the large bowl. This one's too vinegary, she said, flipping over the bowl onto the table. She moved on to the very large bowl. This one's 2 sticks in my teeth, so I have to floss, which I hate, said Goldilocks, chucking the bowl on the floor. She moved to the even yet slightly larger bowl, which had just been sitting out too long and had fermented into a giant slimy bowl of seaweed wine. This one's just right, said Goldilocks, and she drank it all up. But of course she hadn't eaten that day, so she got very drunk, and she passed out on the floor. Soon who should come home but the large Kraken, all by himself, as though the puppeteer didn't have enough hands to tell the story properly. The large Kraken was aghast at the state of his flat. My gosh, our dinner is ruined. There's a drunk girl passed out under the table, and nobody even touched our very valuable collection of 3 chairs and 3 beds. Goldilocks awoke to this commotion and, like any good home invader, promptly shot the large Kraken in the head. Blam! Bleh. Ever the pragmatist, Goldilocks went to the kitchen and grabbed a knife and carved the giant beast into a fashionable wetsuit and a 4-course sushi dinner. And she wasn't cold, and she wasn't damp, and she wasn't even hungry. Nom 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 nom. But it wasn't long before Goldilocks missed the sunshine and the fresh air and not smelling all the inedible Kraken parts rotting in their hiding place under the bathroom sink. So she climbed back into her bathysphere and headed for the surface. When she reached the surface, Goldilocks found herself near a small island. And so she climbed out of her vessel, and she swam ashore. But when she climbed out of the water, she felt a rumbling under her feet, and a booming, bubbling voice said, Fee, fi, fo, fum, I smell the blood of a lady's butt. And Goldilocks said, Hang on there, island, I think you're in the wrong story. And the voice said, I am not an island, I am the very large Kraken, and you killed my brother. And Goldilocks said, How did you know that? And the very large Kraken said, Well, you are wearing his skin, it's kind of obvious. And Goldilocks said, Can you really smell my bum? And the puppeteer said, Insert your own jokes here. And the very large Kraken said, Can we get back to the story, please? And then Goldilocks whipped out Goldilocks whipped out, Goldilocks whipped out a spoon and proceeded to chop the very large Kraken into bite-sized pieces, hollowing each piece out and filling it with a delicious mixture of rice, garlic, and pine nuts. And so Goldilocks ate stuffed calamari for days and days until the island that had recently been the very large Kraken got smaller and smaller, and the meat became older and older, and the smell became ranker and ranker, not to mention the seagulls. And soon Goldilocks started getting hungry again, and she developed quite a taste for Kraken meat. So she climbed back in her junkyard submarine and dove beneath the waves. Etc., 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 etc. Almost immediately upon submerging, Goldilocks found herself face to face with the even yet slightly larger Kraken. And Goldilocks said, Oh, wow, I didn't think I'd find you that fast. And the even yet slightly larger Kraken said, Well, the story's already running pretty long, so... And Goldilocks said, Look, I ate your brother, the large Kraken, and he was too oily. And I ate your brother, the very large Kraken, but he was too islandy. And now I'm going to eat you. And the even yet slightly larger Kraken said, "No, Goldilocks, please don't eat me. I have another brother, a older brother, who is much bigger, and much fatter, and much fresher, and much more organic than I am. Eat him instead, and spare me." And Goldilocks said, "Go thither, and deliver me to this elder sibling, that I might gourmandize his sinews for my abiding repast." And the even yet slightly larger Kraken said, "That's some pretty big words." And Goldilocks said, "It's a high-class audience." And the even yet slightly larger Kraken said, "You want to see my brother lives now?" And Goldilocks said, "All right." And the even yet slightly larger Kraken said, "He lives behind that door." And Goldilocks said, "Do you mean that grotesque stone molding, like a great barn door with crazy elusive angles of carven rock?" And the even yet slightly larger Kraken said, "Yep." And Goldilocks was like, "Aight." So Goldilocks swam down to the monstrously carved portal, and as she reached out to touch it, the door opened through the fabric of reality. And the even yet slightly larger Kraken's elder sibling, who happened to be the great priest Cthulhu, emerged, ravening for delight. And the mighty Cthulhu lumbered forth slobberingly to teach the world new ways to shout and kill and revel and enjoy themselves in a holocaust of ecstasy and madness, pausing only to sweep up Goldilocks in his flabby claws and throw her whole into his gibbering mouth. Nom 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 nom. And Cthulhu lived happily ever after. The end. Well,
what?
Well, I broke my writer's block.
So?
So, can I have the show back?
Do you have any more ideas or just the one? Yes?
Maybe?
No?
Yes?
Talk to me when you have enough for an entire season.
But I thought...
Mbot command prompt.
Okay, I'm going. Jeez. Ended up in a closet last time.
But why a spoon?
Because it would hurt more.